This is Industrial Edge, a podcast where we discuss the cutting edge world of factory automation and the technologies shaping the future of the industry.
My name is Lacey Chandler. I'm sitting here with Bryan Minor from CASSEL Inspection. We are here at the 2024 Almond Board Conference in Sacramento at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center. I don't know, I just see optimistic energy. I see optimistic conversations. A lot more people here than last year. I heard maybe even 1,000 people more. So maybe you can take a minute to introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing here, who you work for, and what your offerings are.
So my name is Bryan Minor. I'm a recent hire with CASSEL Inspection here in the United States. I have 15 years experience in the industry of metal detectors, x-rays, and checkweighers. Previous experience at other companies and even running my own company for a short time. I've now come on board with CASSEL Inspection, and my primary role is to help make the CASSEL Inspection product offerings more U.S. market friendly. Their previous history, CASSEL Inspection's previous history, has been in European and Asian markets, where production facilities just don't run the same way as they do here in the United States. Here in the US, it's more, faster. And their usual customer base, it's slow and methodical, wins the race. We'll get there when we get there. So just trying to help them develop and improve their product to better support our US customer base.
When I hear CASSEL, I think of like fairy tales, dragons,
Correct.
but it's spelled differently. Is that correct?
It is. So it's CASSEL, and that's based on the founder's last name. Cord Castle founded the company in 1994. So he's got a long time in this industry. One of the benefits he and his company have over a lot of the competition is he didn't start this company or start making products until the digital age. A lot of the competition out there, they all started in the analog age, and they've had to try to figure out, how do we make something analog into digital? How do we translate that? But Cord's only known digital, so everything's always been, his technology's been ahead of the rest for quite some time. He didn't have those same constraints.
I see. So what does that mean, inspection, CASSEL Inspection? What is it inspecting, or what is it exactly?
So CASSEL Inspection is directly manufacturing metal detectors and x-ray machines. And then we partner with another company, Teltec, for checkweighers. So most production facilities, I would say the mainstream Americans don't realize, is all of your food is somehow passed through a metal detector or an x-ray machine to ensure that there's no contaminants from the processing or the sourcing of the materials. A box of cereal is an example. You wouldn't want metal shavings in your bowl of cereal.
No, thank you.
So metal detectors are designed so as that company produces the product, it passes through a metal detector or an x-ray, and it looks for that foreign material to help protect the consumer from any kind of injury or bad occurrences from a foreign material.
I completely agree with you about the mentioning of this gap in understanding about where our food comes from. Just like, regular people, or even how it gets to the grocery store.
Right.
What happens between the farmer and your plate. I can see how it's very easy to think that it just goes from the farm to the produce aisle, or however cereal's made. But the realization of how much is done to the food before it gets to you, for safety reasons, for many reasons, is definitely a blank spot. When I explain what we do, it's like, huh?
Right.
And then when they realize that even their produce goes through an x-ray or a metal detector, every single time I say that, they have a face of disgust, not realizing how much has to happen before you just get a basic snack or a meal. Why somebody would have an x-ray or metal detector, or what was the other one? Checkweighers? What is that?
A checkweighers is making it so if you're producing a package that's intended to weigh 1 pound, that you're ensuring that that package, when it leaves your facility, is 1 pound plus or minus a small amount, whatever you determine your tolerance to be. All of these machines, in addition to the consumer safety and food safety, It's also brand protection, and it reduces the number of complaints you as the manufacturer supplier get. Because I know as a consumer, if you told me I'm buying 1 pound of crab legs, I would expect 1 pound of crab legs. I don't want to be shorted and only get 0.8 pounds of crab legs. Usually nobody's going to complain about an overage. If you happen to give me 1.2 pounds, hey, that's great. Thank you. But it's really about brand protection more than anything.
Doing this to the food, is it part of regulations? Is it required? Is it an option? Like, why would or wouldn't someone put that there? Like you said, brand protection. I think you also insinuated less lawsuits.
Right.
But is it something that these producers have to do?
So with metal detectors, we just start each product by itself. So metal detectors, there's no federal mandate or state mandate that you have to have that. What usually happens is you as the food producer or manufacturer, you're trying to sell it to somebody else, a grocery store chain. That grocery store chain wants to protect their brand as well. So they won't buy a product unless it's been passed through a metal detector to help them. So all along the way, there's extra checks and balances put into the system that protects brand and consumer. And you do the same with an X-ray. Same philosophy. Checkweighers Checkweighers are probably never going to be mandated, whereas metal detectors and X-rays might be at some point. Checkweighers is really about shortchanging the customer, or in some cases, you're also trying to meter your own waste. So in an attempt to not ever shortchange a customer, you might intentionally pack 1.1 pounds all the time. Well, every package that goes out the door, you just gave away 0.1 pounds times 1,000, 10,000. That actually adds up to quite a bit of money at the end. So a lot of companies will go with a checkweighers, simply trying to prevent both shortchanging a customer and just product giveaway. It's a loss of revenue.
And then the X-ray and metal detector is about mitigating risk.
Correct.
Is there a situation where a customer or business owner might use both a metal detector and an X-ray?
It has become more popular to see both. So initially, a smaller company's going to start with doing metal detector. It's more cost efficient. It's a lower price point, and they're still protecting their brand. But then you're going to get into a case where now you want to use foil packaging. Foil can't go through a metal detector because foil is metal, or you're needing to look for contaminants other than metal that a metal detector could do. So now maybe you've determined that in the collection of almonds, as a good example, I'm scooping those off the ground. I'm potentially picking up rocks, glass, all kinds of other debris that are out in the almond field where the product's being collected. So the x-rays are very helpful in the almond industry because it's going to make it so you don't have those strange anomalies in your product in addition to metal.
So what happens if they discover that there's something metal when they're using a metal detector? How does that get dealt with?
So multiple options. Some customers choose just to stop the conveyor belt and then an operator walks over and pays attention to it. Other facilities want to get more automated, so they have some kind of device that removes it from the production line. So if it was a bag, they might have a air blower that launches it off the line. If it's heavier like a case, they might have a pusher that just shoves the box off the line. Very similar to an x-ray, same types of reject options.
You said that other things can be detected with a metal detector besides metal.
More things with the x-ray than the metal detector.
Okay, what other things?
Glass, stone, particularly dense plastic or dense rubber. And I think you asked the question on, do some companies do both? The answer to that is yes, not only because they've changed packaging or something. Some facilities use both because an x-ray, because it will allow you to use a metal foil that makes them weak to detecting aluminum. So you might put a metal detector and an x-ray because the metal detector is going to catch the aluminum in your line, whereas the x-ray might allow it to go through.
It seems like it would be in very high demand if there's that many use cases for it. Where do you see the best benefit or the best results, and what type of markets or environments or countries?
That's actually a really good question because nearly anything food can pass through one of these or use one of these three systems. But we also have Metal detectors in particular is also used in the lumber industry. So trees, before they go into the mill to get cut, go through a metal detector. They want to ensure there's no metal in the tree that would break a saw blade. They're used in the fabric industry, so they're making sheets and sheets of cloth that somebody's going to later on make into a piece of clothing. That's being checked to make sure that there's no pieces of needle in it. There's a lot of unique applications for metal detectors beyond the food industry.
That is so interesting. I learned something new today. Thank you. It's
Try to every
amazing
day.
how much goes into the simple things that we can easily take for granted.
Yes.
Like even just here we are at this multi-day event with over 4,000 people. I think there's something like 500 vendors in here, all exhibiting different types of products and services that support just getting almonds onto your plate or in your hand for a snack.
Yes.
How much goes into just that? And think of all the various products and services we utilize daily. What goes into that?
Right. This just being one particular thing, almonds, pistachios, tree nuts. You get out there, cereals, fruits, vegetables. It's amazing.
Well, you just said clothing
Right.
and wood, something I would never imagine.
Fish. I mean, there's tons of stuff. And the strange part is a lot of companies don't realize they need it until they come to a show like this and they're like, hey, wait, why don't we have one of those? Won't that help us to protect our brand and protect our customers?
It seems like it would be a negative expense if you consider lawsuits and complaints and bad press.
Especially in today's world with social media, and we're a litigious world. I mean, even if I did it wrong, it's your fault because I did it wrong. You didn't help handhold me through the process.
Yeah, I can really see how having these types of machines can add to the integrity of your argument that we did everything we could to do it right and do it safe.
And all of these machines have the ability to log date and time. So most of your products now, somewhere on that product, it's going to tell you the day it was manufactured and maybe the time it was manufactured. So if you as a consumer come back and say, there was a razor blade in my bag of almonds, you could trace it back to that manufacturer, and the manufacturer is going to say, no, at that time, on that date, that didn't exist. So we know that this is a fraudulent claim.
Interesting. Have you seen the use of these machines decrease business owners' insurance costs?
I'm not aware.
I guess they probably don't share that with
No.
you. Let's just say it's probable.
I would say it's yes. And if you're not using it, I can see where an insurance company could put a higher risk on you because you're not using
Especially
something.
if you had a claim
Right.
or a complaint or any history of problems in that area. Seems like a real offensive move to have one of these things, or
It
all of
is.
them.
It is. And there's also nowadays a lot of the larger sales companies, we'll say Costco, Walmart, Trader Joe's, that if you want to supply to them and be one of their preferred vendors, you must use metal detection and x-rays.
That's fascinating. You
So
said that's
they won't even
new?
buy from you. Yes, Costco recently, the metal detector's been around for some number of years, but the x-ray mandate, I believe 2028, you will be required to have an x-ray unless you're fit like one of 3 or 4 tiny little loopholes where an x-ray could cause damage.
And everybody wants to sell to Costco
Exactly.
because everybody wants to buy from Costco.
Right.
They have great buyers. I really have so rarely been let down by something I got at Costco.
And it doesn't matter which Costco you go to, you're going to get that same experience, whether you're in this state or the middle of America.
And now it makes me like them even more that they're requiring that type of food safety handling.
Right.
So have you seen that become a benefit yet?
It has. We've seen an uptick in customers trying to get ahead of that and saying, okay, I know if I wait until the last minute, everybody's going to be waiting until the last minute. I won't get my machine in time. So we are starting to see an uptick in sales orders.
Kind of a trend.
Yes.
Tell me about this type of customer, because this has been one of the things that I find interesting to watch the different types of customers, like the early adopters to the technology, to the equipment that's going to really serve them, the kind of like followers, and then the real late adopters are the ones who still refuse to consider technology in their operations or new technology.
I think there's some hesitancy to using the technology, but I think sometimes smaller, I'll say mom and pop places, their budget just isn't there to maybe buy a high-end piece of machinery. So they're going to wait until the last minute, even though they want to. Maybe their biggest contract was Costco, and maybe they sell individual cookies or something. But it's Ma's recipe in the back of her garage or whatever. But she will not be able to do that in the future unless she goes ahead and invests in that technology.
So in that particular instance, it makes me think of the size of the equipment. So if you have somebody that's using a commercial kitchen, perhaps, is there equipment that you sell that would fit in a situation like that? Or this is just like massive industrial operations that you serve?
We do try to fit into the customer's needs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the machinery is built based on the size of the packaging. So
you make these custom.
Correct.
These are not just like off the shelf.
Right. This is not a catalog order. I don't open up Amazon and say, I want model 123.
Oh, interesting.
So the
So
customer
you can
tells
say,
us,
I have this particular product and this is my space requirements. This is whatever I'm required by Costco or nobody for that matter, but I don't want to face a lawsuit.
right.
Then you just build it to what they need.
Correct. I mean, we look at the science-y part of it to make sure it's going to physically work. But yes, we do try to fit. Each one is customized to the product. Length or width might be dependent on their needs, but we definitely factor all that in. If they say, I've only got 5 feet of line space, we do everything we can to squeeze into that 5 feet of line space.
What do you mean by line space? What does that mean?
So if you were to look at a production line is just one single long row. I have this piece of machinery, then this piece of machinery, then this piece of machinery. In a small facility, they might only have 30 feet from one wall to another. So they've got to fit, 5 machines in that space. So they're saying, well, I know that this machine can't be any bigger or it can't be any smaller than this, and this one can't be any smaller. So I've only got 4 feet to work with. Can you make your machine meet my needs and still fit in a 4-foot footprint?
And the answer is usually yes.
It's usually yes.
That might be another gap in just the overall conception of factory automation machines just at large, that they're kind of like Legos.
They are.
That you pick a piece, plug it into the next one, and turn it on and expect that it's going to run right away. But to consider having something built just for what you need, for where you need it, for what you need it for, that's a real service.
And that works for that smaller company who has space limitations, budget limitations. But that's also where the benefit of using a company like Chandler Automation, where you're going to take those 10 vendors that work together well, and you're going to design that whole line for them, and you're going to make every piece fit to their needs. And that's where using a larger company like yours to basically a turnkey system. You're doing everything. They only have to think about, well, does this talk to this and does this talk to that? You guys have taken care of all that.
And for the ones with the budget or the capital restrictions, we can even finance it.
Right.
So what do you think about these type of machines affecting the way that we work? And I guess what I'm talking about is the whole chatter on the street of robots and machines and AI taking people's jobs. What's your stance on that?
That question comes up with customers a lot. I wouldn't say it actually comes from the customer. It comes from the employees of the customer. They see this new piece of machinery come in and they're like, oh, now I'm not going to have anything to do, because maybe instead of using the checkweighers that's automated, bag, does everything for you, knocks it off the line if it's not right. Maybe today they have 3 people picking up a bag, putting it on a scale, looking good or bad, pass or fail, and moving it down the line. The way I try to address that with customers who have expressed that concern is that means you take 3 people from doing a mundane, boring task and employing them, engaging them in something that requires human thoughts. And they're not just going home at the end of the day like, what'd you do? Well, I picked up a bag, put it on a scale, picked up a bag, put it on a scale. Maybe now they got to take care of and make sure that the checkweighers was properly working. And they got to touch the interface, and you got to use them as a human versus just what could be done simplistically by a robot.
Do you find when you're in the trenches with these different business owners that even regardless of the changing of jobs or transfer of jobs or transfer of skill, it's difficult to even find the people to do the work that is being replaced?
It does seem like a lot of the customers that I visit and talk to, there does seem to be a very big shortage of people who want to work or are capable of working. And I really thought that might have gone away after COVID, but it seems like we're still stuck in this mode where it's hard to find workers. And people who care about your company enough to put in the effort and not just be
Like show up
right.
and do the job.
Right.
I do hear that on the street. That's why I brought it up, because you're really in the trenches and you're talking to customers quite a bit, and you have been for a long time, that there's this kind of anxiety about, oh, all our jobs are going to be taken. But meanwhile, I also hear that it's difficult to even find people to do that work anyway.
Right.
Besides, no offense, but humans aren't great at that repetitive work.
Right.
And they're so much slower than a machine.
I really hate it when I walk into a plant and I see somebody at the end of a production line, as an example, picking up a box, stacking it on a pallet, picking up the next box, stacking on a pallet. When I know there's a piece of machinery that does that and lines it up, does it all nicely for you. Why is this poor, and I say poor human, because they just
not a good quality of life.
Right. Here they are doing that same thing every day. It can't be good on their body long term. So yeah.
Well, look at how our trash collection has changed over the years. Do you remember back in the day when it was actually a guy picking up trash cans and flinging it into the truck?
Yep.
With his body. Now you don't see that anymore.
Nope.
What do you see? A robotic arm.
And then now it only takes one guy on a truck. He can drive around and do everything so much quicker. And
not only the workers' quality of life, but that those businesses, I'm sure, just couldn't afford the workers' comp anymore with injuries and, like you said, long-term body damage. Not to mention they probably got trash on them quite a bit. All of that biohazard
Right.
and whatnot. I think that's a great example of how we have automated something that's just the normal now. It's not scary anymore. That's just how it is. And it makes really good sense.
I think humans are also naturally resistant to change.
Absolutely.
I mean, at one point we didn't have to wear a seatbelt. You start saying I have to wear a seatbelt. We have 5-10 years of people complaining, oh, it's the worst thing. It hurts my neck. It hurts this. It hurts that. And nowadays you get in the car, it's like an automatic thing.
Now you don't have an option. My car won't start without that. I think it's dangerous to not be considering what the type of thing you're offering is if you are running a production type of business. Like, not only for litigation reasons, but for efficiency, just to be able to like say that you care enough to do business in a way that's going to be as safe as possible, as efficient as possible, not lose product, not, hire people to do these mundane jobs. It's just smart all around. I mean, that's just my viewpoint from seeing the results. Do you have any kind of like stories or customers that you can remember where putting something like this in created some type of specific positive results?
I would say after any period of time where they've started using this technology, any of these three types of technology, they see the benefit almost immediately. I mean, it really speaks for itself. Once it's installed, they're like, oh yeah, even that person who was afraid of their losing their job because he was the guy at the end stacking a pallet, he's like, oh, I can work over here now and I don't have to do that. So you even see some sigh of relief from them when it's said and done. They see how it was actually beneficial to them.
And it's really cool, actually, to see it working. It's really amazing how someone's beautiful mind came up with these machines to do these complex tasks. It's fascinating to me.
Well, it's always one of the reasons I love this job is because I get to go to this wide variety of customers, anywhere from they're processing a salmon to processing almonds to cereal or whatever. Everybody's got a different approach, and there's different machinery to do all these different tasks, and it's just cool to be able to walk down a production line and just kind of see how it's done. I know there's plenty.
Yeah, there's a show about
exactly how it's made.
Were you just about to say that? I felt it.
So I love that. There's another one called Inside the Factory. It's very good as well. So
if there's anyone who finds it interesting to get more information or maybe get some of this equipment, how can they find you?
On the internet, of course.
Stating the obvious.
So I believe it's www.cassel-inspection.com. You can also sales at or service at and info at. There's tons of ways to get in contact with us. And if nothing else, contact Sean or anybody at Chandler, and they'll definitely know how to talk to us.
ChandlerAutomation.com. Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right.